I put it.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Oh, bad start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sports
Unlike
with
Charles
Saddaj.
Leclerc.
Yes. Welcome to the Sports with Saddajji and Friends podcast, the F1 edition. Aniket is back with us this week, and today we're going to discuss Monaco. And what else in Monaco but to discuss the win of the homeboy, Charles Leclerc. Finally, Aniket, finally, after so many false starts and heartbreak and Ferrari screwing up strategy also, uh, Charles Leclerc finally gets not just a podium but a win at Monaco. Has he finally broken the curse? Now, does this supercharge Leclerc's season? I mean, he had a kind of a shaky start, right? Sainz was kind of, you know, uh, beating him every race. Sainz even won a race. But yeah, does this finally supercharge his season? Is Leclerc back?
I think Charles is officially back, and Ferrari is also officially back. I would say with the positive results that they've had in the last couple of races. So definitely Charles, as in kudos to him. He controlled the entire weekend. He was dominant the entire weekend. He outperformed his teammate, outperformed Red Bull, McLaren, everyone, whoever was there, and he finally got his home victory, which he was coveting for such a long time since he entered Formula One as well. He's always been there or thereabouts, in most of his races previously. But there have been some unfortunate incidents as well as some strategy errors that has cost him victories or podiums in Monaco. But not this time. He was not to be denied. He nailed the original start, and then once the lap was red flagged and the race was red flagged, then he got back to the things, cleared his mind, and he nailed the second start as well. He did not give a chance to Oscar Piastri at any time in the race. Controlled the pace of the entire race. Kept Oscar at a arm's length behind him so that he could not get DRS as well. Ferrari got the strategy right, the pit stops right, everything was on song at this race. And what Charles became just the second Monegasque driver to win his home race, I believe, and the first in like
First
60
in the
years.
F1 era. First in the F1 era.
Yeah, so I think
Yes,
first in six.
92 years ago.
Yeah, so first in 70 or some 60 or 70 years or something like that. So
1993.
yeah, okay. So it's been that long that it's difficult to
Yeah,
count as well. So I
yeah.
think yeah, I mean Charles just controlled the race. There's not much more to be said. He just had the perfect weekend right from when quali began, and Ferrari had a good car this weekend. They had, I would say, the best car this weekend. So we can see that they are making upgrades. We can also see that teams are closing up to Red Bull. So maybe we have a season on our hands after all.
Yeah, yeah. And not to mention, this was sorry, this was Leclerc's third pole at Monaco. So finally, third time lucky, right? The first time in 2021 when he got pole, if you recall, his car was I mean, he crashed into the barrier, at the end of Q3 after setting the pole lap, and which ruined Max Verstappen's lap, flying lap, right? But the gearbox sustained too much damage,
Yeah.
and we saw that he couldn't come back into the race. And then 2022, was that the famous race when Ferrari completely screwed his pit stop off at Monaco? And
So
like,
definitely there have been screw ups as well as unfortunate incidents for Charles. So this
yeah,
this win was coming sooner rather than later, and as soon as Ferrari got the act together, which they are slowly, it feels like Ferrari are currently stable in terms of the management and leadership under Fred
yep.
Vasseur. So that's a
all
positive
they needed
sign.
was a Frenchman.
Huh?
All they needed was a Frenchman.
All they need was a Frenchman. So exactly, and it does seem like they're on the right trajectory.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was all in all an amazing weekend for Ferrari. Leclerc was first, Sainz was third, and not just like Ferrari, but even McLaren. So McLaren had a 2-4 with Oscar Piastri second. See, I told you Oscar will be better than Lando when they have the same car. Uh, I'm Team Oscar, baby. But McLaren had another very strong weekend, and I think also must be said that Leclerc, just to come back to Ferrari for a minute, like you were saying, Leclerc drove very smartly, right? In the beginning he was backing up Oscar, when Sainz had good tires. So Sainz was just nipping at Oscar. So Oscar was more focused on defending rather than
Hmm.
overtaking Charles. And then Charles pulled ahead, opened up a big lead at the front. Sainz was still less than half a second behind Oscar, but yeah, Leclerc just comfortably won. And we saw Mercedes improve uh, from so they started the season at 6-9, and then they came to 6-8. They're also 6-7 at Imola, another 5-7. So, in the words of the worldly wise Toto Wolff, it's progress for Mercedes. Will we see
Yeah,
fifth and race?
I think if, yeah. Firstly, if we come to McLaren, they've also had another strong weekend. So another team on the rise, another team that is going to challenge Red Bull this season,
Yeah,
and they've been competitive across now different circuits. So I think during our Miami review, when we talked about Lando's win, we mentioned that Red Bull are still the best team out there, but if McLaren does well on the other tracks going forward, then we might see a change in the order sooner rather than later. So it does seem like McLaren have done well after Miami and Imola and in Monaco as well. So
yeah, they almost
they're on
won
the
Imola.
yeah. So they are definitely on the right path along with Ferrari. So it does look like it'll be it might be a three horse race, on most of the race weekends from now on,
Yeah.
henceforth, which is exciting for F1, man. I mean, I would say if we have these
Yeah.
kind of
Do we
if we have these,
do we finally have a season on our hands?
I mean, we also have to take into the fact that Monaco might have been one of the worst races in the past 20 years of F1, where the top 10 finished as they qualified in. So that's a huge problem we have, which we'll discuss, in a bit in terms of the race
Yeah.
itself. But in case like I would say in terms of McLaren, definitely probably the second best showing of the season. I mean, apart from Miami when Lando won, and also I would think that Mercedes might enter this fight. In the second half of the season, as you said, they upgrades are slow and steady. They're
Yeah.
finishing, between fifth to tenth now every race, and two of them are finishing probably a position behind the other or something. So I think Josh did a good job on his 70 laps all medium tires or something. And obviously overtaking Monaco is a different thing, but he didn't make a mistake and lose his position to Max. And
Right.
if you come to Lewis, I think he could have had the undercut on Max had the team told him to push a little harder on his outlap. And that was a missed opportunity for Mercedes to get that place from Verstappen. But I mean, I think that's the pace they have currently. So we can see that there's a clear pecking order now with Red Bull, then Ferrari, Mercedes being probably together, and Mercedes below that in no man's land, wherein they are much better than everyone else, but still not close to the top three teams.
Yeah, Aston Martin has, kind of very precipitously fell off, right? They had a good start to the season, they were competing, and then they got the big upgrade at Imola, and they pulled a Ferrari like 2022 when Ferrari got the big upgrade and basically became garbage overnight. Uh, I think that's what's happening to Aston Martin. They completely fell off. Alonso finished P9, Stroll was P11, but yeah, you expect more from Aston Martin after especially compared to the way they started last season in 2023, right? They're getting podiums. You're seeing Nando on the podium at least a couple of races, I think, right? Beginning of the season. And then, Mercedes got competitive. Ferrari came back second half of the season. McLaren came back the second half of the season. And now this season, we have completely Aston Martin disappeared once again. So I wonder what's going through Lawrence Stroll's mind. Like I say, on every episode of stream, will he finally learn to kick his son out? Uh,
I think the car is generally like not been the at the right what do you say the right sweet spot for them this entire season.
yeah,
So, and I'm not sure if they've brought any upgrades over the past couple of races as well. So it does look like the other teams are, getting better than them at this point. And if you look at Visa Cash App, I think this is the first time I've called them Visa Cash App. Okay, so that's
It's
that's good.
it's RB.
RB or whatever they're called. So I think Sonoda is doing a good job there, and Ricardo is
Yeah,
probably kind of upping his game also at this point. So they
right.
definitely look like they are the new fifth best team at this point, overtaking Aston Martin. And the other
Yeah,
teams also like Alpine as well as Haas, who are doing much better than Aston Martin at this point. So I would
yeah,
say I would say that Aston Martin definitely have a fight on their hands if they don't get their act together. Fernando is not going to be sitting there finishing, getting out in Q1 every race. So that's going to be a challenge for them to take towards the next few races. I
right.
think Canada might be a little better for them next race. So I mean, based on the recent reports which we've seen, it does seem like they might bring some updates there
Yeah,
to
yeah,
fix
yeah.
the
I
car.
think both Aston and Mercedes are bringing upgrades to Montreal. Mercedes we know because Toto said they'll get over 3 or 4 races. So
Correct.
we saw bring some upgrades at Imola. They brought some more at Monaco. They did bring a couple at Miami too. But yeah, and just a correction, I said Aston Martin was P9 and P11. That was wrong. I was seeing the drivers' championship standings. They're actually P11 and P14. That was absolutely terrible.
Hmm.
Um, P10 was Alpine, Pierre Gasly, who almost had his race ruined. So yeah, let's talk about let's come back to the teams in a bit. But the first lap carnage, or really the first sector carnage, right at Monaco this season, this race, it was unbelievable, right? Like red flag, 4 cars out, and should have been five, but science came back. But
Hmm.
the start was, I think, one of the more exciting starts. So we saw Carlos get off the blocks quicker than Oscar, and he was challenging Piastri into turn one, and they touched. I think Science got booed by Piastri, and Science had a puncture, and after a while he ran off the track, and he thought his race was over, right? But before he could, get out of the car and or maybe drive a limping Ferrari back to the pits. What did we see? We saw Kevin Magnussen, who went for a gap that did not exist, trying to overtake Checo. So Checo did have a bad start, so Checo fell back. Kevin Magnussen was trying to overtake. See, he overtook his teammate Hulkenberg first, and then he was going for Checo after the turn. I think turn one or turn two. Went for a gap that didn't exist. Perez was because Perez was following the racing line, came a weird right, hit hit Kevin, had a very very disastrous crash. Uh, we saw Red Bull with one wheel, and I mean thankfully they're all safe. But
Yeah.
he took Kevin out. Kevin took Nia, like he took Kevin and Nico out. I think Joe was like, "What the hell is going on behind them?" And then at the tunnel we saw again Esteban, man, like again the other idiot in this weekend. He was going again, trying to overtake. I don't know what the hell. I don't know what the hell he was trying to do. He overtook Gasly. Didn't was not happy. Tried to. I don't know. I don't know what he was trying to do. He just uh he got rear-ended by Gasly because of his stupid driving. I think he brake tested or something, and he went on top of Gasly and came down, and his car was ruined. Gasly thankfully didn't have much damage. He finished P10. But yeah, what I think that was the most exciting Monaco start, and then we had a red flag, and then it was nothing. It was just a snooze fest afterwards.
I mean, it's just the desperation of drivers to get through on the first lap because that is the best chance to overtake, right? So that's the. I mean, I can
Yeah,
understand what.
and you also saw Russell right after the restart. Russell was trying to go for what's that, Lando, and he was
Yeah.
told to back because he has mediums.
So I think drivers realize the importance of getting a good start. So I understand what Kevin was trying to do. He saw a gap, he tried to take it, but obviously the wrong move from his point ruined his race, ruined the others' races also involved. And we
Right.
saw the Red Bull suffer a huge damage. I believe that they're going to be spending millions to get that car fixed now, which will affect their future upgrades this season. So that might be one to watch. But I mean, it's just the nature of the track, right? You got to, got to be opportunistic to make sure that you don't ruin your race as well as somebody else's race. And unfortunately, at this point, it ruined both of their races and ruined a third person's race as well. So
Yeah,
that's unfortunate. It happens in races, especially in Monaco, where the gaps are so tight. So if you
yeah,
don't take the gap, you're probably ending up as a stalemate. So I mean, I understand Kevin's desperation, but yeah, he shouldn't have gone for the move. He should have just stayed back and kept it calm at that point. And I think now is the right time to talk about also uh, the race in itself, where in Monaco, when
Monaco.
we
Yeah,
come to,
yeah,
we try as we're talking about overtakes, right? That was the only few moves we actually saw in the entire race, and imagine those moves were not clean. They resulted
yep,
in
yep.
accidents. The other move I saw was Valtteri Bottas overtaking, I think the two Williams, or I think one of the Williams when he had fresh tires,
Yeah.
and that's about it. So in all,
And
we
also
got
Lance
like
Stroll, because Lance Stroll had a puncture, so he fell back. So I think there was one overtake at that point, right?
correct. So all in all, we see overtakes because of extremely fresh tires, or there's a red flag and then somebody overtakes somebody else and during the pit stop. So it's very rare we get to see an actual on track overtake between two cars who have the same tire,
Right.
which has lasted them in the race. So if we talk about this track, we saw the top 10 finish in their same position which they qualified in. So there needs to be a serious discussion on whether Monaco is an F1 track anymore, in terms of it's not providing any entertainment in terms of the on track value. The only entertainment Monaco brings in is because of the fame and the glamour it's got. But in terms of an F1 track, it's an absolute dud. So the question we need to ask, and the question our viewers who want to pitch in their comments also, can put forth their opinion on whether Monaco should be there on the calendar or not.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And just you comment your point on overtakes and just looking at some data here. So this year, we had four successful overtakes because I mean, Hulkenberg's didn't count because he was out, right? Like he crashed as soon as he, not Hulkenberg, sorry, Magnussen. He crashed as soon as he overtook Hulk and Checo, and Ocon was also out. So the first successful overtake was Valtteri Bottas passing Logan Sargent, and then Lance Stroll overtook Joe and Sargent, and then Sargent managed to pass Joe. So there were four overtakes. That's it. And last year there were 22 overtakes because of rain in the final stages. 2021, sorry, 2022 there were 13 overtakes. But get this, 2021 there were zero, and 2019 there were two. 2018 there were four. 2017 there were three, and these are all dry races, right? In 2022, when there were 13, there was some rain as well. So that's why you had 13 overtakes. So if you look at the last five dry races, including this year in Monaco, they had 4, 0, 2, 4, and 3. That's it. In 5 years, you had like, what was that? 13 overtakes? Come on, man. This is a freaking joke. Like,
Yeah, and moreover speaks about the fact that whatever the regulations are, be it hybrid era, be it like whatever the era we are in now, there's barely any overtakes happening. So
yeah,
what we now need to think of is extreme ideas to bring in entertainment in Monaco.
yeah.
The ideas which I can think of is have water sprinklers on the road,
Yes.
on the
Bernie
on
will be
the
so
on
happy,
the
man.
F1 track.
Bernie will be overjoyed here, right? Yeah, because he proposed, randomly sprinkling rain and on tracks, not just Monaco, but F1 in general, of having sprinklers on the track and just randomly turning them on and causing drivers to spin out.
I mean, that's what needs to happen in Monaco too. That's probably one idea I can think of at this point, to make Monaco more interesting. Just random water
Yeah,
on the track,
I think
and
we also need much softer tires, man. Like
that's
what the
another one I could think of.
like go and lasting an entire race, 78 laps on medium tires. Why?
And
And
this year as well, George also did what, 70 laps or on medium tires or something? I don't remember how many laps,
yeah,
but it was a
something like
long
that.
stint.
Yeah, it was a long stint. Yeah,
So definitely, one thing I can think of is softer tires, even softer tires. So Pirelli, maybe they can bring a special kind of a compound just for this race. Although, I mean, the cost and all that with F1 trying to cut down everything may prove to be a barrier for that. But definitely on the tire aspect, they can do something. And there's another thing I can think of is mandatory use of all three compounds. So
Mm,
since you have like three compounds in the races in the on the for every race, which we have, so just make sure the team uses all of them, and that's a mandatory thing in Monaco. Maybe you
right.
go that route as well. So
So, okay,
uh,
one thing, George never pit. George only pit during the red flag
the red flag, correct? Yeah.
after 77 laps. A mockery on medium tires.
Imagine Max Verstappen having what, I don't know, 50 lap fresher tires and still couldn't overtake. So whatever, 40 laps
Yeah,
also. I don't understand. I don't care. But basically, he had fresher tires, still couldn't overtake with the faster car. So, and I mean, another idea which I can think of is the chicane after the tunnel. Maybe they just get rid of it and make it straight all the way till the next
yeah, just
corner.
have a long DRS over there, right? Give some.
Maybe that could be an idea in case, I mean, if they try to figure out the safety aspect of it. So, but there has to be something done if they want to keep. I mean,
I
this
agree.
race is going to be on the calendar regardless of what every F1 fans think about it or not in terms of overtakes.
Yeah, I
But
think
a
just,
significant discussion needs to happen on it.
I think also just for tradition, they're going to keep Monaco, right? It's not like that has stopped F1 from killing other tracks like Nürburgring or Hockenheim. But yeah, I think Monaco's current contract is till 2025. And also Monaco's historically been very, very resistant to any changes, right? Like they still have their own, I think their own crew, TV crew, right? A broadcast crew. Or I think only they recently gave it out to the farm. That brought up the famous thing when Crofty was, excitedly talking about some overtake and Monaco just cuts to Lance Stroll. Uh, remember that? That was at Monaco too. Like, you can't freaking get Crofty to get excited about it. Um, but yeah, and like, yeah, I don't know, man. Monaco, I mean, so 2026, we are supposed to get slightly smaller cars. But I don't know, like even in the 2000s when we had smaller cars, it's not like we saw a lot of overtakes in Monaco, right? Like the early 2000s, the V10 era, which had much smaller cars, we barely saw any overtakes in Monaco.
Exactly. I mean, we always have a tradition of the pole sitter more or less, winning
Yeah,
unless he has any problems, except for Charles,
yeah,
who's definitely had a few problems previously, but not this
yeah.
time. But
Generally, the pole sitter, even if he doesn't win, he still at least gets like a podium or something, right? It's yeah, Monaco is just like I'm just seeing that from 2003. The pole sitter has won like come on. Wow, I have to count how many years they have not won. Like one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. So in the last 20 years, 20 on the last 21 Monaco races, the pole sitter has won 14 of them, two-thirds, right?
yeah,
And this pattern pretty much continues before that too. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's also a street circuit, so it's hard to talk about widening the track as well, right? Because it's
I,
literally an actual
what
street.
what was that like? Even in 2000, what 17 or 16 or 17 what was that? Ricardo was stuck behind Lewis for a while, and he couldn't overtake him for like, and Lewis was on like what 40 laps old tires or something like that. So I
Yep,
don't
yep.
remember. That was
Also remember, I don't know what 21 or 22, Viscar and Alonso came to Aston Martin. Uh, Alonso was in this scrap car driving, and nobody could overtake him, even though Alonso had a much slower car. He was basically
that was
holding up the
a
entire.
I still remember that graphic. I just saw it before the race. So obviously Lewis was behind him and he was making sure that Lewis does not get past him in any way or
Yep.
any way or form. So then the whole train, like basically the other cars were half a lap ahead of Alonso, and then he was
Yeah,
holding
exactly.
up the entire pack behind them so Lewis can't overtake him. That was very funny. But yeah, I mean, I think we've had a good, I would say, discussion on whether this track needs to be on the calendar because there are races out there who maybe do not have the money at this point to host an F1 race, but definitely would be so much better of an option for F1 fans is viewership
Yep.
in terms of
Mhm.
you brought out Hockenheim, Nürburgring. I can think about Portimao as well. Then so many other races which I can think of which deserve a place
Yeah,
in the
but
calendar.
track that we're also missing, right? Like, especially yeah, like you talk Portimao, that was one track that was very nice. The two German tracks, right? Could probably rotate Imola out as well for alternate seasons. Yeah, I
That
mean,
brings up a wider conversation of whether we need a rotating European GP also.
I think not just Europe, right? There are so many tracks right now that from calendar. Instead of having a 24 race season, which is so long that even Crofty is taking 3 races off, like dude just commentates for 2 hours. Like he's also like, I'm what screw it. Uh, so I think maybe as a larger conversation is should we just rotate tracks in general, right? Not just Monaco or Imola, but there's so many tracks which we don't go to, right? Like tomorrow, let's say the F1 calendar wants to come back to India, for example, right? They want to come back to Booth. Where will you put it in the calendar? You can't have a 25th race. There's too many fucking races on the calendar, right? Or even 2020 was supposed to go to Vietnam, which never happened. And even if it's the last 2 or 3 years, we're only having 23 races, and China finally got ready this year. And F1 said like, oh, what race do we drop? I don't know. We need Vegas, we need China, we need Miami, with all these
Yeah,
Qatar and Bahrain, and like just so many tracks, dude.
there's so many tracks, but I mean, the only issue which I foresee with those kind of rotating aspects is the logistics part, because a race, I mean, you have to tell the organizer of the race to firstly be ready, because they would never know when they might get a call up to host a race. So
Right, right.
I think the continuity aspect of it is also ruined, because then generally a race would sign a long term deal, and that is like broken in case they go for this rotating aspect. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
logistical and legal issues that might arise because of this. So it's for F1 or FIA to go
Yeah.
find a alternative methodology of including such historic
Yeah,
racing.
that is
So
true. But if you set up a cadence, if you let's say the next rules change, F1 says, you know what, let's say, I don't know, we can only do 20 races, right? I'm just throwing random numbers or 20, 25, whatever. Let's say 20, right? Let's say F1 is like, hey, we can do only 20 races in a year because of driver health, common crafty's health, whatever, right? And we have like 40 tracks to race at, right? For just throwing on numbers. Or say 30 tracks, right? So, they can say, okay, these 10 tracks will be there every season for the next 5 years. The other 20 tracks will rotate, you know, 10 in a year, 10 off in a year. And then say after 5 years, another 10 will be, say, the constant for 5 years, and then the other 20 would rotate. Something like that, man. They're like F1 can do things, right? We started 6 races in a year. Like, come on. F1 can think for
yeah,
solutions.
I definitely think they should consider it. I mean, there are definitely going to be a lot of hurdles, just like with every
Yeah.
sport there are. So it's for the FI and F1 to just try to see what the
Yeah. I mean,
best is for the
also,
product.
circuits pay so much money to the FIA, to host these races, right? And a lot of the smaller circuits are even unable to cough up this cash because they don't see Germany or some of these tracks anymore. So this can also help smaller races, smaller circuits. And yeah, about that Alonso Hamilton, yes, looked up. It was 2022, and Fernando Alonso in P7 was trying to do the math on this 34 seconds behind Lando Norris in P6.
That's how much Alonso hates Lewis for some reason. So
I mean, I think at that level, any driver who's competitive will not allow a driver to pass, right? But just like, sitting in P7, so three drivers didn't finish. So he basically didn't allow 11 drivers behind him to, go ahead of 10 drivers ahead of him, behind 10 drivers behind him to not over, just held up 10 drivers, right? The gap between Alonso and Hamilton was 4 seconds. After that was 2 seconds. After that, 1 second, half a second, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Like, so from Hamilton to P17, who was that? Sorry. Okay, the last three drivers are one lap behind, but from Hamilton to Stroll, the gap was just 14 seconds. And between Norris and Hamilton, the gap was 31 seconds. It's just amazing how that this shows, like any other track, one DRS stretch, Alonso is dead, right? One
exactly.
DRS with the kind of car Alonso had that year, the Aston Martin was garbage that season, 2022. Any other track, Hamilton and like half the field was overtaking Alonso in like a couple of laps, right?
That's the beauty of Monaco. You get pole, or you finish, or you get like into the top five in quali. You're kind of
Yeah.
set there. You're kind of set. There's no
Yeah,
overtaking to be had. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think that's pretty much it for for Monaco. Obviously, I think Carlos Sainz will be thanking Kevin Magnussen a lot. But yeah, it was. Otherwise, yeah. I mean, I know in past days I've been asking for more red flags and all, but come on, man, not a red flag in Monaco, where even the pit stop gets neutralized, man. That's not what I was asking for.
exactly. But I mean, it's
Yeah,
always good to go to Monaco. But I'm glad we get it off, quickly, and
yeah, yeah,
and we move on to much better races. Like I'm just waiting for Montreal in a couple of weeks' time, so we
yeah.
can
Oh, yeah.
talk about a
Coming to
race that'll probably be more exciting.
coming to Montreal, I don't like F1 does all the sustainability initiatives and what they go to Miami, zip back to Imola and Monaco, and then go back to North America. Like, why couldn't Montreal be after Miami? Like, what was stopping them? I don't get F1 sometimes. Like, actually, most of the calendar is like pretty localized and all that. They do all race in region and go. But yeah, this one Montreal, I don't get it. Like, what's in that contract that says Montreal is like I have to be after Monaco? Like, come on. But yeah, I think that's mostly it for Monaco. I mean, there's not a lot to discuss really. We saw. I mean, happy for Charles. He finally gets his win. Um, yeah, I think
Yeah,
before we
I think
leave,
this was the first race where we didn't talk about Max Verstappen in a lot of
yeah, yeah,
detail. So maybe we get a few more races like that in this
yep.
season. Let's see.
We'll see. We will. I mean, we do have to talk about Max Verstappen in Montreal because Montreal is a more traditional circuit. Red Bull's probably destroying everybody, but that's for next week. At least this week we are saved from talking about Red Bull. Unless, except, yeah. So let's catch up on some of the news in the past couple of days, right? So Checo, first let's start with Red Bull, since we're not talked a lot about them. Let's talk about the Red Bull family, that's Red Bull and RB. Starting with Checo, there have been rumors that Checo might be extended, you know, despite his poor form in the last few races. There have been reports that Checo might be extended, which is not good news for Carlos Sainz. Uh, poor guy doesn't have a drive. But yeah, there's news that Checo will be extended. Yeah, so before we discuss, just kind of to wrap this. So Checo might be extended, which means Sainz doesn't go to Red Bull. And apparently Mercedes doesn't want Sainz either. They're looking more and more likely that they'll just directly put Kimi Antonelli in the main seat, which Max Verstappen actually talked about, saying he should not put pressure so much. I mean, he's only, what, 16, 17 or something. So, I mean, he'll be 18 next season because of F1's rules of needing to be 18. But I mean, Max did touch upon this sometime last week that they should not be like he talked about his own career when he was 17, came into F1, he came into Toro Rosso, he didn't come with. Uh, do we have Yannick?
Yep, we are on. Still on.
So Max talked about this where he said that he was actually a bit thankful that he came when he entered F1 at 17 and he came to Toro Rosso instead of Red Bull, and had a couple of seasons to kind of hone his craft. And he talked about how you know young drivers, they show a lot of promise, but you still need to prove yourself. And he worried about Antonelli being given too much pressure. But yeah, it's looking like the Toto Wolff and nearly there. Yeah, just to wrap this, the other bombshell we saw that was Yuki Tsunoda might go to Haas of all teams, and Carlos Sainz might go to Williams. So yeah, Aniket, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. Just quickly on that, I think Carlos Sainz, it's going to be difficult for him now to get a top seed in F1. So I think right now it's just between the new Audi works team and Williams at this point for him to make a decision on. So we'll see how that turns out. And in terms of Yuki Tsunoda, I understand the Haas connection because uh, I mean not the Haas connection, but I feel that I could see Yuki Tsunoda either in Aston Martin, maybe because Honda is
Right.
teaming up with Aston Martin. They might they might put forward their opinion on wanting a Japanese driver. So I could see Tsunoda being considered there, and Haas also because I think RB definitely wants to reshape their driver lineup for next season, and they want to have Lawson in that car maybe for
Right.
next season. So
But I mean, it also seems that Haas might be tempting Yuki with a more lucrative offer. Maybe they're getting a cash infusion somewhere. I don't know. Maybe they found a couple of bucks in the couch cushions. I don't know. But because Yuki Tsunoda did say that he's open to leaving for the right opportunity and a lucrative
I would think
opportunity.
so. Because obviously the team is more focused on trying to see if Ricardo is somehow, Ricardo somehow gets better while
Yeah,
Sonora keeps showing up with amazing performances. So I would understand why Yuki might think that, he's all alone in that camp. So if definitely there's a lucrative offer, he will consider it. And I'm sure that if Aston Martin, who's teaming up with Honda for 26, also offers something, he might consider that. So I think Yuki will definitely be in F1 next season. So it's just,
yeah,
we'll see where he lands up in the end at this point.
yeah. Also maybe the point that Yuki doesn't want to be in a B team anymore, right? Even if he goes to Williams, he'll still be the number one driver, right? At RB, being number one at RB is like being number three because you have two Red Bull drivers ahead of you, and you never get.
Yeah, definitely. I think Williams still Alex Albon might be ahead of him at the if he had gone there.
I don't mean Williams specifically, but I think Yuki Tsunoda thinks he'll probably be a real number one. If
Yeah.
he goes from
I
instead of being a number one of a B team at
I mean,
RB.
his performance definitely have been consistent of a number one, driver of a
Yep,
midfield
yep,
team. So I could see him, at Aston Martin or Haas, getting those teams probably better in making those teams better in terms of their results
right.
and so forth. Let's let's see whether it ends up in the end.
Yeah, and if Sainz, actually does end up going to Williams, maybe we see Tsunoda at the new Audi works team too. I mean, who knows, right? Audi's really, really, trying to get a very good driver for their team. I don't think they're going to be satisfied with Nico Hulkenberg.
I don't
So
know. I mean, they've got Nico Hulkenberg. I mean, I don't know what made them sign him. What made them sign him so early? But they definitely
yeah,
need someone better than that in the second seat.
yeah, I think Yuki Tsunoda is an easy number one at Audi if he goes there, right? I mean, the Hulk is fine, but I mean, Yuki's better. Yeah, and okay, I come back to my favorite. I mean, one of my favorite questions every week. How long would Daniel Ricciardo be at the team? Why is he not fired yet?
I think it's just because the team, I would say Red Bull does not have confidence in Lawson as of now, and they still want to give a chance to Ricardo to see if he improves. So I think that's the only
Yeah,
thing I can think of at this point. So, but he is definitely up to the results in the past few races. You got to give him that.
yep,
And
yep. I mean, sure, he did get that good sprint result, which kind of has, buttressed his position. But you take that sprint away, you barely has any points. Ollie Behrman has more points than Ricardo, and Ollie Behrman 2.1 race. Uh, like, come on, man. Like Nico Hulkenberg has more points. Lance Stroll has more points. Like, really. Yuki Tsunoda has four times the number of points as Daniel Ricciardo. Like, what is Red Bull looking for? I can't imagine. Like, I'll be livid if next season we see, Yuki Tsunoda bumming around in some team like Williams or a Haas or something, but Daniel Ricciardo gets to keep his RB seat when when Tsunoda is wiping the floor with Ricciardo this season. Uh, yeah, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there.
yep.
And before we leave, I just wanted to mention we talked about a couple of streams, a couple of episodes ago, Aniket, that Ferrari, the Italian team, needed a Frenchman to save them, and that Renault, the French team, probably needs an Italian to save them. What we did not expect was that Mr. Flavio Briatore would be coming back to Renault. And sure, the rumor is not that he's going to be team principal, but man, come on, still. Briatore,
Yeah.
that guy, oh my god. He got banned, right? He got banned
I don't
from
know why an F1 team wants someone like him back. So it's just bonkers
yeah,
for me at this point.
exactly. Like he was banned for life, right? From F1. Then he got unbanned, and then they're like, you can't come to the paddock. And then you see him in the paddock anyway. Yeah, then you see him having lunch with Toto and Honor and whatever other clowns we have on the paddock. and now it's like, oh, he'll be in a non day to day whatever bullshit role at Renault, at Alpine. Sorry, not I mean the official name Alpine. So what? Are we going to see? I mean, and Ocon is looking very crash happy. So I wonder, does Bravery come back and he's like, hey Ocon, just crash somebody, man? Like
Crash Gate Part 2, huh? But I mean,
crash.
at this point, it's just like very like strong. I mean, not even strong, very like far-fetched rumors. So we'll just see what happens on that front. Like unless we get
Yeah,
something from BBC or something, we'll wait and see what how that
yeah,
pans out.
yeah. We'll see. We'll see. And before we guys leave you, and we'll obviously see you next week in Montreal. But I just wanted to talk about one final news story, which I mean, it's not like a funny story, but just uh, we for today there was news that the much loved, the favorite, the top meme team principal of the past few years in F1, who's not in the team anymore, but Mr. Binotto of Espinala fame is reportedly also like pretty much certain to join Aston Martin as the new chief technical officer. Uh, which honestly I think that's a good role for him. Binotto is a very good engineer, right? I mean, I think he couldn't handle Ferrari's politics as team principal. But Binotto is a very good engineer, and he was one of the engineers during Schumacher's era too. So I think this will be a very good appointment for Aston Martin, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely they need some fresh faces in that team. You know, they're struggling at this point, so it depends when he's going to join. Is it for the car this year, or will it be for the car next year for 2026? So, and likely, most likely, I feel that his appointment, or if they appoint someone like him, will be towards 2026 and getting that car into the
Right.
best shape best shape which they can. So, I think Binotto will definitely be a very highly sought after,
So
tech.
it's apparently going to be with immediate effect because Aston Martin's technical losses stepped down last year and they haven't had a replacement yet.
Okay, so I mean, if that happens, then definitely, yeah, it's definitely with immediate effect. So he's going to have a say on this year's car, next year's car, and the car
Yeah,
heading into the new regulation. So definitely,
yeah, maybe. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, they need some appointment. They need an appointment like that. So at this rate which they're struggling, and anyone
Yeah, yeah.
who's capable enough could come and help them, they should definitely hire them. And Binotto is a brilliant strategist, not a strategist, brilliant technical guy. So
Charles
definitely not a
Leclerc.
strategist, definitely not a team principal, but it's very good on the tech side. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think definitely probably Aston Martin, the second upgrade right before the summer break or just after the summer break. Binotto could have a very, positive effect on that, perhaps, as a chief technical officer. So yeah, it'll be very interesting.
Yep.
It will be just fun to see Binotto back on the paddock, man. He was a good guy, just couldn't handle Ferrari's politics. But a lifetime Ferrari guy, rose to team principal, got destroyed by the team, but it'll be good to see him back. We just need Gunther back now. But Gunther is not technical, so it has to be I don't know, Gunther back at Alpine.
I never say never.
Yeah. All right, guys. That's all we have for you this week. This we're not going to do previews because Montreal we have a break, so we'll come back next week to preview Montreal and see what the circus has on off the paddock. But yeah, that's it from us today. So see you guys next week, and yeah, safe driving.
Yep. See you guys same time next week, and do remember to like, subscribe, and just do all that jazz.
Yep.
See you until we see you. Bye bye.
Bye bye. See you.